like a broken soul in a wonderland without angels. That is how I feel when the mirror shows me a stranger. Yeah. And I know they're just fragments of a world where your absence all I get to see. Take me back to the planet where you and I are still meant to be. 'Cause I'm incomplete when you ain't by my side, when you don't wake up next to me. Yeah, I'm incomplete. I need you here tonight to cover up these empty sheets. 'Cause I'm incomplete. Yeah, I'm incomplete. Hey, 'cause I'm incomplete. I need you here tonight to cover up these empty sheets. 'Cause I'm incomplete. At the crack of dawn, I imagine you waiting by my doorstep. But it won't be long before I realize it's a picture in my head, in my head.
Girl, you be my love, you be my other half. That's real. Know that I be missing you when we're apart. Yeah. Felt for you the second I laid eyes on you. I believe it was fate, meeting you was written in the stars. Yeah. Real. Girl, you be my one, you be my only. Trust. Promise that I'll never leave you lonely. Never. Said you be my lover and my homie. Shit. So I'ma keep it real with you always. Said I'ma be there whenever you need me. Anything you want, I'll get it, call me GD. You were the one when you said you would ride for a brother, no matter the weather, and you never leave me. Baby, let us fly away without no delay. To where the sun be shining, we can take it easy. Just me and you and some incredible scenery. Yeah. In the night, speaking love, I know you feel me. In the night, when making love, I know you feel me. Before I'm being without you, baby, it kills me. Yo, what I be looking for, I'm giving you the room, babe. Just say the word and baby, by your side I won't be. I was feeling empty, but now you feel me.
And right when I switch over, just like that, TJ's flexing on everybody. What's going on, guys? What is going on? I know we are not used to these midday NBA streams, partly because we're missing the NBA guy here, TJ. But due to some COVID concerns, he's actually taking the day off. He is with us and might be with us for the next couple days. So thank you, TJ, for taking some time off work and joining us. So I know you're happy about NBA because the Celtics are still killing it, and they are obviously in the playoffs, and they're going to be making a run here. The Spurs, not so much. I've already switched gears into MLB season. I'm actually wearing my Orioles. What's up?
Your mic.
Oh, am I? Is it messed up?
Unplug it real quick.
Okay. Testing.
Better. Yep.
All right, technical difficulties. All right, guys, a few things before we get started. First of all, if you haven't given any of our other videos a watch, we put out MLB content, daily videos, fantasy football videos. Now, we are trying to get into that space. Daily, long, or not daily, goodness, season-long fantasy football videos. We have best ball videos coming out. If you guys haven't checked out those Draftkings contests, go over to NFL. They look phenomenal. I'm going to join a few. I'm going to enter some big entry contests because guess what? There is such an edge in those. Guys, give all of our videos a watch. We are ready to kill it for NFL season. Also, MLB, like I said, guys, Patreon, $20 a month. We have literally hit almost every single night. I'm not kidding. We've had close to takedowns in every single contest. It is like printing money. I promise you, I'm not kidding this. MLB, guys, is where it's at once NBA does wrap up. NBA, obviously, there's still a huge edge. We still have to monitor all of these stinking injuries right now throughout the rest of the playoffs. Guys, NBA, attention to detail. I get some messages where people are killing NBA and then others who are not, and then I wonder why. Well, it's because you guys lock in the very first game and you play the most not obvious plays on the planet. Guys, attention to detail. Late swapping is the key for NBA, okay? Get that through your heads. Late swapping, especially if you're MMEing. Guys, learn how to use Fantasy Cruncher because Fantasy Cruncher is where it is at. If you guys don't have Fantasy Cruncher, I do recommend the product. I'm going to be showing it here on screen. We're going to be going game by game as much as we possibly can. Let's go ahead and look through the injury report right now. I'm going to see a lot of red here. So, what do we know right now, TJ? Let's go ahead and break down the injury report real quick. And if you could, just give like kind of a rough overview on the slate.
Yeah. Okay. So first game, I think, is the most important game in terms of fantasy for today. We have Indiana versus Houston. Indiana will be without Warren and Brogdon, which is huge. And then Houston without Russ and without Daniel House. Harden is good to go, starting at point guard, and actually Eric Gordon playing in his first game back in the bubble, actually starting at the 2, which I was surprised he's not coming off the bench. He will be limited to 20 to 25 minutes, so definitely more of a GPP play. If you're playing cash from this game, I'm locking in James Harden. Harden without House and without Westbrook on the court, he gets a 10.3% usage bump, averages 1.92 fantasy points per minute, and has a 47% usage rate. Now, I understand that yesterday a lot of people probably played Westbrook, and in cash, he was like 90-ish% owned. So even the fact that he didn't get his full allotted minutes, it definitely didn't burn you. I feel more comfortable playing Harden if he's only getting 28 minutes than I would with Russ, obviously because of that usage rate that Harden pertains and just the fantasy point per minute output that he has. So for cash from the Houston side, I definitely love James Harden. I also really like Jeff Green as a cheaper guy at 4,400. Like I said, I like Eric Gordon as a GPP play. I also like Covington and McLemore. We know that Ben McLemore is not afraid to shoot. He got in some foul trouble yesterday, still ended up getting 28 minutes, and they actually, Rockets didn't play their starters those last like 6 to 8 minutes because of a blowout. Against who they play, Matt?
Who did the Rockets play?
Yeah.
I have to go back and look.
Come on.
My bad.
It's your Spurs.
Oh, yesterday.
Yeah.
No, that was 2 days ago. They played the Spurs 2 days ago. Yeah, we blew them out. I was talking trash. I know that. That was 2 days ago.
No, it was yesterday. You're dumb.
It was yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking trash yesterday then.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking on Houston. And for Indiana, obviously, intrigued with them as well. We see that Jakar Sampson is starting for TJ Warren. Projected at 23 minutes right now, which isn't anything, to write home about, but at the minimum price of $3K, averages 0.74 fantasy points per minute, only 11.3% usage rate. So not somebody I'm incredibly excited to take, but at that minimum price and starting, and definitely could see more minutes if, Miles Turner doesn't play a lot in the second half, or even Oladipo, I guess. So I'm definitely looking at Jakar Sampson starting at 3K. Guys like Aaron Holiday, Justin Holiday, definitely good picks. Aaron Holiday with Brogdon and Turner and Sabonis off the court. Gets a 6.2% usage bump, averages 1.05 fantasy points per minute, and actually garnishes a 25% usage rate. And that's with Oladipo on the court too, which I was pretty surprised. It's a pretty good usage rate. And then I was talking to Matt about this. Miles Turner, unfortunately, the sample size is only 70 minutes, but he gets a 14% usage bump. So that's obviously without the other big guys, Warren and Sabonis on the court, and Brogdon, but obviously Sabonis and Warren kind of affect, Turner's output. 1.67 fantasy point per minute, which is just absurd, and a 32.2% usage rate. So I'm going to be all over Miles Turner for GPPs. At 6,600, I guess he's not that bad of a play for cash. But I definitely think that this first game is going to be the most important in terms of cash and GPPs, but it's also going to be great fading, not full fading this game. I wouldn't advise that, but trying to pick and choose who you think's actually going to get their allotted minutes, and then keeping your lineup open for any other injury news that we might get, and being able to late swap over the field and just having better leverage over some guys.
That's something I want to touch base on because so many lineups passed me yesterday strictly because I started too many people in the first couple games. Right. We don't know the reality is this. We don't know what's going to happen in these late games. We don't know who's going to get rolled out. Even to this last Clipper-Denver game, we don't know. Me and TJ, again, we're talking about this before. This game is only relevant for seeding. So right. I think the situation is, does Denver play one team or the other? And they're pretty much exact. It was Dallas and Utah, right, for seeding?
No. So it's the it's Denver right now is the 3 seed. The Clippers are the 2 seed. They each have 2 games left. They obviously play tonight. If Denver beats the Clippers tonight and then wins their final game, and then if the Clippers obviously lose tonight and then lose their final game, that means Denver would get bumped up to the 2 seed, the Clippers going to the 3 seed. But for Denver, that means they would play Dallas, who sits at the 7 seed. So it's kind of like, would Denver rather see Luka and Porzingis in that first round, or would they rather have the opportunity to play either Utah or OKC, who are still trying to figure out who's going to be the 5 and who's going to be the 6? I mean, my personal preference, and Matt agreed, is I don't want to see Luka and Porzingis in playoffs, especially in the first round. So I kind of think that Denver, not going to throw the game, but it wouldn't be surprised if they try and stay in that 3 seed, because I personally would rather see OKC, especially with Adams dealing with injuries and Noel, or the Utah Jazz without Bogdanovich, than playing a healthy Dallas team. So just some things to keep in mind.
Yeah, so I guess to bring it back to my point here is the last game, literally any kind of roster swaps could happen. So I've been burned the past 2 days, me personally, with putting too many people earlier in the early games and then not being able to switch a majority of my lineup to the late games, where we saw the Raptors completely open up the roster a couple days ago. Literally, I mean, from Norman Powell to Siakam. What's up?
Sorry, I said Matt Thomas.
Matt Thomas, yeah. I mean, all of this crazy value, and it just became such an edge at that point, and I couldn't create the edge. So when you're MMEing, if you are an MMEer, first of all, do not play some of these early plays. Just don't, because more than likely some of these later games will open up value. If you are a cash play, take the high ownership guys in the very first games, like your James Hardens, and move on. Okay, take the high owned guys, move on. Your GPPs are where you're going to create the edge by late swapping. And yes, it's going to become a headache, but guess what? If you're going to make money in NBA, this is the only way to do it right now. I guess to piggyback off of some of your points, TJ, I think, did we touch base on Jakar Sampson? Yep. Because his minutes right now are projecting at 16. We do believe that's going to be higher, correct?
No, that should be bumped up, yeah.
Should be bumped up. So we're going to be guessing mid-20, I guess 20-ish minutes.
Yeah, I'd say, I'd probably say like 24.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty safe number, and for a guy that's the min price, like just exist and you'll get 15 points if you're playing 24. Like, you should just be there. Just like rebound falls in your lap, or like, you get a bunny layup, like should be able to get you 15 points, especially in cash. So I definitely like Jakar for cash.
Yeah, so I mean, take your cash plays. Right now Justin Holiday is showing is showing the highest owned tier at 3,600. Yeah, $3,600, 31 minutes. Bottom of the barrel price tag at 3,600. Victor Oladipo is actually showing at 60.3. Obviously should be scoring all the points today. It's Victor Oladipo at 6,000. Might be a contrarian fade here. Aaron Holiday, 59.3. All these guys are carrying such high ownership, and the reason for it is because we know that these guys are playing, and we know that they're in good spots. What we don't know, later games, what's going to happen. So like I said, if you're playing GPPs, I fully recommend take the very high-owned guys here, and it's going to be coming from Houston. James Harden, possibly one guy from Indiana. Move on. Move on because late swaps are going to be your best friend today. And I already know that TJ agrees with most of that, but he is a cash player as well. So take your high-owned guys from Indiana if you're playing cash. Do you want to move on to the next matchup?
Yeah, we're still waiting on some news from that game, unfortunately. But yeah, let's touch base on that.
Okay, so do you want to start with what we know from Philly?
Yep. So we actually have everybody that is either in or out for Philly, which is nice. So right now, obviously, Ben Simmons done for the year, and then Alec Burks actually got ruled out as well. So it looks like Embiid's going to go tonight, Tobias Harris and Al Horford, who are both questionable as well. Josh Richardson is good to go too. So nothing really here intrigues me. Embiid's projected at okay, actually, he just got bumped up to 30 minutes. He was projected at 30. Yeah, he was projected at 26, actually. So Shaq Milton, somebody that actually intrigues me at 5,400. He's projected at 30 minutes right now. Gets a 1.1% usage rate, averages 1.02 fantasy points per minute. So he's actually showing the highest on my sheet currently, him and Embiid. I definitely don't hate Embiid as a GPP play. In terms of cash, I don't like any of these guys. I was kind of hoping maybe a guy like Horford or Harris would be out, kind of give a bump to a guy like Korkmaz or anything like that. If I'm taking one guy for cash, it's definitely going to be Milton. But I would definitely use this game as more of a GPP play than anything for cash. Quick shout out to my boy O'Quinn yesterday. Almost had a trick job. He was balling. It was wild. I didn't know if he was going to come back in the fourth quarter. And then Scott Brown put him in with like 3 minutes left or something like that. He needed 2 points and a rebound, got the rebound, couldn't get the bucket. So wild effort, though. 3K, 45 points. It's a great day. But yeah, in terms of cash, I wouldn't have anybody from Philly in your lineup. If you are going to take somebody as a last piece, I would definitely go with Milton. Strictly
GPP. I'm going to let you get.
Then I could see one of those two being a last piece. Those would be my two go-tos. But GP definitely strictly GPPs for Philly for me.
Yeah, if you're thinking about this long-term, bless you. If you're thinking about this over the longevity of the slate, you got to consider that there's not too many pay-up options on the slate, right? You got James Harden and then pretty much everybody from this game. And then you already 100% know you're going to have value open up later in the slate. So might as well take a stab at some of these guys in GPP. According to my leverage sheet, I'll go ahead and give out this play. Tobias Harris shows out the highest or the best under rating. So that means that if he does well, nobody will be on him. And he is projected to do the best at 8K. So I like him here as a GPP option. Again, everybody from this game is going to be under the radar, under-owned, and if you believe in any one of these players, take a stab. Definitely do not recommend anybody as a cash option like you said. Embiid and Harris stand out the most for me from Philly, and if you switch over to Toronto, it becomes at this point like, do the coaches put in these guys full minutes? Do they keep them in long enough for them to even hit value? The question or the answer to that is, well, we don't know either, so go ahead and deploy them as if they would play those full minutes. Keep getting notifications. We have Van Vliet. Van Vliet is one of the best, again, on my sheet. 7,300 price tag at 0.5% ownership. I expect him to carry that low of an ownership with all of these other options on the slate. James Harden, again, being the only pay-up option. That 7,300 price tag is very awkward. Nobody's going to want to pay up for Van Vliet. Same thing with Siakam, 75. Everybody in this Toronto-Philly game, GPP, not because I like them, but because of their ownership and their potential upside if they decide to go at it. Toronto and Philly obviously have some history. They're both Eastern Conference powerhouses, so they should play, I don't know, relatively competitive. We should see.
Yeah, I agree. It's so tough to try and figure out minutes for these games that are basically meaningless. Toronto locked into the 2 seed, so whether they win both or lose both, it's not going to affect their seeding. And again, we're in a bubble, so there's no really home and away home court advantage. So yeah, we're still pending OG Anunoby and Ibaka. Ibaka sat last game, and Anunoby played and actually played 25 minutes. So I think if maybe Ibaka's out and Anunoby's out, I think that brings in like Boucher. It was an absolute mammoth last game. He's just a freak. Played 30 minutes. He had 25 points.
Boucher's so underrated. He's such a good player.
So he's so lengthy and he's so athletic. So he would definitely be a guy that I'm looking at for GPPs if those two guys get ruled out. Matt mentioned Van Vliet. I mean, obviously didn't play last game against Milwaukee. They'll play him tonight. He's projected at 28 minutes. Like, if he can get 28 minutes, he could definitely hit value. And at sub 1%, like, why not take chances? So I wouldn't mind taking some of these Raptors guys. But if Anunoby and Ibaka are out, I'm definitely looking at Boucher. That's where my eyes are drawn to. So
I will say this. Let's just I'm going to throw some hypotheticals out here. Let's just say that Toronto does deploy their full roster. Philly does deploy their full roster. And we know what we know about the Indiana-Houston game, and we know nothing about the rest of the slate. I would be 100% confident playing some of these high pay-up options from either one of these teams and keeping open some spots for this extra value that's going to probably come from these later games. So that would be my strategy. Again, like, Embiid does pop out to me, and like we just talked about this whole time, Van Vliet definitely does pop out to me as well. Just sub 1% ownership. All right. Miami OKC. What do we know about these rosters right now? So we know that Schroeder is rolled out. Is Steven Adams? Do we have him we still have him as questionable?
Still pending Adams, still pending Noel. Both haven't played the last couple games. So
yeah, Baisley has been a monster, obviously, for them.
Great. Muscala's been good. So let's touch base on Miami, because that's what we do know. Miami's roster is locked for tonight. No Kendrick Nunn, obviously. Olynyk is probable. So when I'm looking at guys from Miami, again, I personally believe that probably 60% of people's cash lineups are going to come from this first game between Indiana and Houston. That's where the value is. That's where all the high chalk guys are going to come from. But Miami, I mean, if Nerlens Noel and Steven Adams are out, like, and Bam's going to play 30 minutes, I'm all for that. Like, I don't think Mike Muscala can bang down low with Bam, so or Baisley.
Not too many people can. No.
Right. So I'd be very high on Bam if both those bigs for OKC are out. We saw what Jimmy Butler did to Indiana and to poor TJ Warren, who was just flying high. Jimmy just came in 28 minutes and just was absolutely absurd. Only shot 5 of 13, but just did everything. 4 steals, 5 assists, 11 boards, 19 total points. Like, he was just everywhere. He obviously hates Warren. They've had some piffs over this last season, so it was nice to see Warren get put in his place a little bit after. I mean, he was going bananas. So Bam is definitely my play, especially if Steven Adams and Noel are out. I definitely like Dragic at 5.3. They started Goran last game. I'd be interested to see if they do the same thing again tonight, starting for Nunn. So yeah, I kind of want to wait and see what that projected lineup is. Well, I have the projected lineup, what that official starting lineup is. But I'm keeping an eye on Steven Adams and Nerlens Noel, and if they are both out, I definitely like Bam for Miami. That's kind of where my head's at right now, Matt.
Yeah, and it's just like we were talking about in the last matchup. I mean, the ownership on all these Miami guys are so much higher just because of the what we know about Miami right now and all these injuries. Yeah, so again, just alluding back to the point of, do you want virtually no ownership on these Toronto Philly guys, or do you want at least a quarter of the field playing some of these Miami guys? Pick or choose your spots where to differentiate yourself in GPP. I definitely like all these players. I mean, Jimmy Butler, 16.5% ownership is what he's showing at now, so that's another place you could get different in these smaller GPPs. 7,800, obviously, with there being a lack of these pay-up options, another good pay-up option. Yeah, Adebayo, like you said, 7,700. I pretty much am agreeing with everything you said. I'm going to try not to repeat you, but I'm doing it anyway. Are there any value plays on this team that you're interested in?
I mean, I guess I consider Dragic a value play maybe at 5.3, but any of these cheaper guys like Derek Jones Jr., like Iggy, I mean, they don't really have too many bottom of the barrel pricing type guys that are going to log minutes. The minutes are pretty evenly dispersed between the rotation that the Heat have currently with none out. So I mean, yeah, I guess you can take a stab with Derek Jones Jr. at 3,500. But yeah, I don't really have any interest in any of them.
All right. I want to pause real quick, TJ, and answer a bunch of questions because
Sure.
we just got asked like a bunch of questions. Want to catch up a little bit. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Thoughts on playing Jakar Sampson? Good question. I don't know if he's going to carry enough ownership yet for cash. Right now, he's still showing at 18 minutes. Like I said, we do project him to be in the 20-25 range. He usually does kill it whenever somebody's not on the court, but if the ownership is updated right now, he's still not a cash option.
I'll tell you now. I know that percent. Like,
And then I just bumped up.
Yeah, I think it's gonna bump up. I'll be starting him in cash.
Okay, so right now he's projected at exactly what we thought, 20 to 25 minutes. He's projected at 23% ownership. He's borderline cash GPP. We do think he has cash upside, and what I mean by that is he should be an obvious lock. $3,000 at 23 minutes should have no problem, especially at the power forward center position. Is he starting at center? He's starting at center, right? No, power forward.
No, he's playing the 4.
Yep. Should definitely get that value. I think he should be a cash option because right now we know that he's going to play. We know that he's starting for Indiana, so go ahead and lock him in. For GPP, I would probably say no. I'm probably holding off just because, like I said, there's so many other options later in the slate. I've just gotten screwed so many times by taking up all this value early on and not being able to pivot later on. I know TJ has too, so that's the only reason I'm saying that.
I got stuck at work when that whole I made my lineup and then that whole DeAndre Ayton stuff happened.
Yeah,
and I looked and I was like, "Where's Ayton? Why isn't he starting?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh, I can't believe I didn't."
Well, do you know what frustrated me the most is when he got ruled out because of a stupid coronavirus thing? I had pivoted the majority of my lineups. First of all, I pivoted every single one of my lineups off of Ayton because I had 150 at that point, and I had a bulk of them switching to Saric. And then when he got ruled back in, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" Like I thought he was going to start again at that point. I was heated.
Yeah, he didn't do anything anyway.
No, he didn't. So it ended up benefiting me, but still.
Yeah, I still can. Good. Yeah. What else do we got for questions here, Matt? Because I want to touch.
Baisley or Justin Holiday?
Well, we saw what Baisley just did in that last game. What did he? Baisley's 35 minutes. He had 22 points. Like he was everywhere against Phoenix. But if Steven Adams and Noel are in, I definitely like Justin Holiday. I really like all these cheap Indiana guys. I mean, they're way too cheap. And I know we're looking for leverage later, but a lot of the injury news that we have is out. Technically, Miami set, Philly set. The only thing with Miami is if Olynyk goes from probable to out. But Miami set, Philly is set. Toronto, we're pending OG and Ibaka. OKC, we're still pending Steven Adams and Noel. The Clippers are set, and then for Denver, it's just if Grant's in or out. So I really like all these cheap Indiana guys against Houston. Highest over-under on this slate. I feel like a lot of ownership for cash is going to be there. If you want to talk leverage, try and fade this game as much as you possibly can. But if you're talking cash, I'll tell you now, I'll probably have at least 5 guys from this first game in my cash lineup.
I'll say this: I definitely don't hate Indiana. I just hate it from what's been going on in the NBA recently, and obviously everybody's been getting rolled out. And with as much leverage as there was yesterday, I think it was yesterday with Toronto or 2 days ago with Toronto, it was crazy. You could have literally started their entire roster and you would have cashed easily. So if another situation like that happens again, big GPPs is where you want to target that strategy, not your smaller ones, your cash lamps. You want to stick with Indiana, obviously, because TJ just said highest over-under on the entire slate. Guaranteed points and obvious plays. But
in the minutes too, even if, because we already know half their studs are out. So the only guys that are in that normal starting lineup are Turner and Oladipo. And if you're taking a lot of cheap Indiana guys and for some reason Turner and Oladipo don't play that much in the second half, you're benefiting even more if you're taking Aaron Holiday, if you're taking Justin Holiday, if you're taking TJ McConnell, if you're taking Jakar Sampson, Doug McDermott. All those guys are going to see 20-ish plus minutes. So especially, Aaron Holiday and Justin Holiday, obviously. So, yeah, I'm really in love with all those cheap Indiana guys.
Yeah, but, in the situation that Paul George and Kawhi could get rolled out, there's the entire Clippers roster. So all that's still on the table. And it could happen.
Right, it can. I don't think it's going to be as crazy as yesterday. But, if that happens, then, yeah, you obviously, Matt's going to have leverage on 99% of the field, and he's just going to. So.
Yeah. So, is there a good enough possibility that could happen? Sure. So that's all I'm saying. It really depends on your contest, to be honest.
Yep. Always.
All right, going down, we have a Bobo about to go off. That's not a question. That is a statement, and a very confident statement. I'm good on Samson. Congrats. We have.
Congrats.
Don't fade Samson, and it's cash. Am I the only one loving Aaron Holiday? No, we like Aaron Holiday. I actually love Aaron Holiday whenever Brogdon's out. He's actually one of the biggest benefactors from that. But again, we just keep going back to this. If you want leverage later,
Matt, he said, "Am I the only one not loving Aaron Holiday?"
Then yes. No, I mean for different reasons.
Yeah, if you want to try and fade him in GPP, sure, but like at 4.6 projected at, he's gonna see 32, 35 minutes. Like I don't see how you get away with that. Yeah. He could easily go out and put up 20, but like at the same time, it's like if 80% of the field's gonna have him for cash, I just don't see the point in looking somewhere else. Personally, I mean, that's just my opinion.
It's just so tough to talk about these NBA slates right now.
It is for sure. It is. Yeah.
I'm good on Justin Holiday as well. I mean, Justin Holiday I can actually get because the dude just goes out and does nothing. But
right, it's not like he. With these injuries, though, he actually averages 0.9 fantasy points per minute.
And that actually is impressive for him.
20% usage rate. The sample size for that, though, like I alluded to earlier, that's a 69-minute sample size. Nice for Turner. And for Oladipo, I think it was only like 25 minutes. So you throw Oladipo in the mix, more of a usage guy that might bump, Aaron Holiday and Justin Holiday's usage rate down a little bit. But still, if the minutes are going to be there for those guys, they're too cheap for cash.
Is James Harden a must today? You know what? That's a great question because that's a question going around in my head right now. Yeah. It's kind of hard to see a scenario where James Harden isn't the optimal scorer, especially with all the question marks later. And you know that James Harden should play the full 35, 36 minutes because it's James Harden. That unless it's a blowout game, I don't see him not playing those minutes. Right. He's a must in cash, first of all. Is he a must in GPP? That's tough, man.
I'd say no, but like you can get cute and go Kawhi and PG. You can get Butler. Like there's ways to pivot off of Harden for GPPs, but if he's gonna play and you're gonna be kicking yourself, man, if he ends up playing his 35 minutes because he's gonna get 70.
He's gonna get 70, 80, sure.
So
highest over under. If it was a low pace game, I'd be more hesitant, but it's not. I mean, they're gonna score a lot. I'd say the only reason that you would not play James Harden is in the hope of a blowout or something freakish happens and he just doesn't play the rest of the game for whatever reason. I'd say that'd be the only situation when you don't play him. And GPPs too. But it could happen again. Everything could happen right now in the NBA bubble. TJ Warren could be the next Michael Jordan in the NBA bubble. Anything can happen.
Yeah, when he's not going up against Jimmy Butler or Mikal Bridges. So let's pump the brakes on that.
Yeah.
Elise Johnson just got added to the Pacers pool. Projected 16 minutes. Elise Johnson.
I thought you said Chauncey Billups. That's what I heard.
Wow.
I was like, wait, what?
So that I feel like that affects Jakar's minutes a little bit. So I'm gonna have to go back and look at that because Jakar's minutes did get reduced a little bit.
Boucher question mark. I think we answered that. So no, TJ, how many Pacers would you play in your lineup for cash?
I had 4. I have to go back and look at Jakar just because. I mean, Elise Johnson's played what looks like 5 games all year, and if he's now projected for minutes, he'll be backing up Jakar. So, and then we got Doug that can play the 4 too. So, I'm gonna have to go look at that. I can guarantee 2 that I'll have in my cash. Most likely 3 and potentially 4. That's as good as I can put it right now. Guaranteed 2 Pacers, most likely 3, potentially 4.
Thank you, Arnold, for the subscription. Really do appreciate that, man.
Thanks, Arnold.
Is McConnell a good GPP option at 46.9%? Absolutely not. That's not a good leverage option. I would honestly say he's more of a cash option at this point.
Yeah,
Just strictly because of the ownership. I'd say any other situation where he's carrying low ownership, absolutely, because TJ McConnell has high upside, but at that ownership, it's not contrarian whatsoever.
If you want a good GPP play from Indiana from cheap guys, I'd go Edmund Sumner.
Okay.
I mean, if he's gonna,
I see that.
He might only play 15 minutes. So if he does, then please don't shoot me. But if he can get to 20, like he should do pretty well on that 3K price tag. As a flyer, that'd be a complete pump play.
Number one value play in Hop, and you meant GPP. Number one value play in GPP, again, that you're going to be targeting one of these later games, just period. If you're trying to target anybody from these earlier games, they're going to be too high owned for GPPs if you're looking for a contrarian play. Let's go later. Again, we're talking what ifs at this point. I did like a couple Miami players, like Iggy is going to fly under the radar. We never know what his minutes are going to look like. 25 minutes is what he's projected at for 4,000. Has been killing it, 1.3%. I always like him. Jay Crowder's always contrarian, it seems like, 3.1%. 5K makes an awkward value play at that point, at that price tag. All guys that could benefit without those injuries for sure. Hero projected right now at 28 minutes, and his price tag is pretty awkward at 5.3K. Again, you're looking at these price tags where people are just going to look at it and be like, nope. 2.4% ownership. So a couple of these Miami guys definitely stand out. And again, I'm looking at what we know right now, and what we know right now is Miami's injury report. So when will the updated leverage come out? If you are a Patreon member, it will be out in about 10 minutes once we get off the live stream.
Someone said they have nothing to play for. I don't know who they're talking about. I don't think he has to play 30-plus minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question for all teams at this point.
All these, I mean, everybody playing tonight is in the playoff picture. It's just a matter of seeding at this point. We don't have any of those 8-9 guys or those teams trying to get into the Western Conference 8-9 play-in. So all these guys are locked into playoffs. It's more so seeding at this point. So and there's no home court advantage. So yeah, none of them really have technically anything to play for. I guess it's preference on maybe who they want to see in the first round of playoffs. So yeah, it's kind of up to you to try and decipher who you think's actually going to get the minutes and who isn't. We're slamming stuff. So yeah, that's why I think that's all I got.
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to sit here and try to predict the future. The reality is, like I said at the beginning of the stream, all of these teams could play their starter minutes, all their starter minutes, or they could literally play under 20 minutes each one of their players. I mean, that's the hard reality of this. It really is a gamble when it comes down to guessing who's going to play minutes. But that's why you take advantage of this. That's why you take advantage of late swaps, your values, all this. Okay, you can't do that when you physically bet on teams, but you can do that in daily fantasy sports, which is why there's such an edge. Okay, so play your cards right.
Play them right, fellas.
And yeah, FanDuel does have late swap, by the way, now. So if you're a FanDuel player, hallelujah.
Yeah, that's cool. What else do we have now?
We have, does anyone think I'm crazy for possibly fading Harden? No, we talked about that earlier. Not crazy, but like I said, James Harden should be the optimal player in the optimal lineup if he does play this full 36 minutes, okay? The question is he going to play this full 36 minutes?
Great. Don't fade him in cash, I'll tell you that.
No, not cash.
Don't fade him in cash. Don't do that.
All right. Questions have stopped. Do you want to touch base about this last game? I mean, again, it's all question marks at this point.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. And then we'll go ahead and get off after that, and we'll answer a few more questions. I do have to update a bunch of stuff on my end, but I think we got a majority of the content out on this live stream, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Let's go ahead and finish this live stream on a bang. Go ahead and start it off, TJ.
All right, so let's touch base on the Clippers side of the ball. I really like that price tag on Kawhi if he gets those 33 minutes. I definitely love him as a GPP play. Matt, you said he's carrying, I see 20% ownership in GPPs?
He is carrying... wait, did you just say Bam?
No, Kawhi.
Oh, Kawhi. 27.5.
Okay, so I see 20, you see 27.5. Let's take the median. Let's go 23. If Kawhi's 23% at 9,500, with Shamit, Bev, and Harrell off the court, Kawhi gets a 6% usage bump, 38% usage rate, 1.64 fantasy points per minute. Matt, he's actually a 6.1 on our sheet.
Yeah.
So
at 9,500.
Yeah, he pops for me pretty big. So I definitely like Kawhi. If people are trying to get off of Harden, if you want to take chances in GPPs, this would be my pivot. I'd go to Kawhi. I mean, obviously it's a $1,600 difference, but leave some money on the table tonight. So I really like Kawhi from this Clippers team. I feel like every single time we do a live stream, I talk about him, JaMychal Green, and he just never does anything crazy for me. But at 4-1, I definitely like him as a GPP pump play. He's currently projected at 0.1%. So I will have my share of JaMychal Green, averages 1.17 fantasy points per minute with all those guys off the court. It's just the minutes for him. If there's a game that maybe he plays 28 minutes, like, sign me up. I'm still waiting on it, but we'll see if it happens. So that's kind of where I'm looking at the Clippers. Obviously, Lou at 5.5, his minutes have been so wonky that I'm not in love with it. But for GPP play, for sure, he's showing low ownership too. Zoob, low ownership. PG's at 25%. I'd rather pay up and get Kawhi. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the Clippers. Matt, I don't know if you agree with me.
I really do think one of these guys are going to get rolled out. I just do. I mean, I see them being competitive. No, I really do. I just see them being competitive even without Kawhi or Paul George. So why would they play both of them, you know? And with Kawhi, given his history of resting or whatnot, I just think it's going to happen. And when it does, I mean, you can pretty much load up on all these guys because they're such usage monsters. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. With there being limited pay-up options, like Kawhi, 9,500 is going to carry a decent amount of ownership, and then when he gets rolled out, people are going to be so frustrated. Easily pivot to Paul George if he does. Would pretty much be a Kawhi like at his fantasy points per minute. If both of those guys get rolled out, well, then guess what, guys? You're screwed. Now, play the entire roster. Let's switch over to the Denver picture here. Do you have any interest in anybody from these guys?
For cash, no. If Grant gets ruled out, potentially. I don't hate Monty Morris as a flyer at 4-2. That's really cheap. If Grant's out, we'll have to wait and see what that starting lineup is. I'm trying to remember who they started last time because Grant sat last game. If you give me 1 second, where's my pop? I have like 98 popcorn machines up right now. And of course, I couldn't find Denver. They started Torrey Craig. Okay. Yeah, so it was MPJ, Millsap, Jokic, Torrey Craig, and Jamal Murray.
That's what they're projecting right now. Yep.
Yeah, and every single guy for Denver that actually saw the floor played 20 minutes. So no one played less than 20 minutes. No one played more than 30 minutes. So yeah, I think Denver's more instead of trying to lock up that 2 seed, I think they're more focusing on health because they had a bunch of guys coming into the bubble that were sitting out. Starting to get a little healthier now. The one guy for GPPs, Matt, Jamal Murray sitting there, I'm showing 1%.
Yep. He's always low owned.
Yeah, I'd take a chance on him. I mean, his first game back against Utah, he played 40 minutes, and then against the Lakers, they dialed him back, played 25. So if he plays 32, 33 minutes, then yeah, at 1% ownership, like I definitely like that.
25 minutes, 39, 38, 39. Sorry, 22 and 26 are what he's played in the bubble. Sorry, 25, 39. I was reading the wrong column. He's played over 25 minutes. I will just say that in each one of his games in the bubble. So if he's playing that at 7,000, I love that. I love that at 0.7% ownership. Should be competitive. Like I said, it's the Clippers. They are the worst team, at least according to Vegas right now. So sign me up for all that leverage. I'm going to go ahead and sign off on that note, guys. It looks like we have no more questions, and I do have to get out that last update on Patreon. So thanks for tuning in, guys. One last thing. We have a pretty big announcement coming out for you Patreon members. You guys already know what I'm referring to. That should be released this week. So, again, hold on to your butts. We're going to be releasing that here pretty soon. The update and announcement will be coming out shortly. TJ, any last words?
No, good luck, everybody. If you have any questions, at me in the Discord. I'll be in there now until lock, answering questions if anybody has any. I think you want to stick to this Indiana-Houston game for cash, and then for GPP, find leverage elsewhere.
Yep, completely agree with that. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.
Bye, guys.
I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. Realize there must be more to life than this. Reaching for the stars, traveling